Good morning. Good morning. We are back. We are back to life lessons with Dr. Sheila Little. Today we're talking about the weight of truth, right? We're closing out the Weight We Carry series, and we're talking about this weight of denial. All right. This week we're focusing on the T in weight. We talked about the weight we carry with our Russell, the weight we carry with our exhaustion, the weight we carry um, with our inspiration, with our growth. The last time I saw you, we talked about healing. And then this week, we're going to focus on the weight we carry in our truth. And there is truly a weight that we have when it comes to bearing our truth, right? With bearing our truth. So, um, again, this is week 6 of this series. And if you notice, the content has kind of shifted because I really just want to have very upfront conversations about this weight we carry. So, my powerful question that I want to open with this morning is, what if the very thing you're calling keeping the peace is actually stealing your power? I want you to think about that as we talk about this weight we carry when we're talking about our truth. Again, this is all about the love of self. That is our conversation for today. So let me say something. When was the last time you asked someone or someone asked you, how are you doing? All right. And you actually told them how you were doing, right? Not this edited version or, what you should say, but you actually said it, not the version that kept you comfortable, but the version that really bared your authentic truth, right? And a lot of times I find that people will say, like, I'm fine, right? And it's kind of like this reflex. But the real truth is, um, we could say something like, I'm not okay. I'm tired. I'm overwhelmed. I'm lonely. I feel alone, right? In this room full of people. I'm scared of wasting my life away, right? These are more in depth conversations. And I do feel like, depending on the type of environment that we're in, a lot of times we don't feel like, we want to, in a sense, burden people. All right. But what if I told you that the reason that you can't seem to break through, no matter how many affirmations you do, no matter how much you meditate, no matter how you're trying to attract the life you want, no matter how you're journaling, the workshops you're attending, right? No matter how much you're doing, right? The vision boards or whatever, the reason why you're not breaking through is because you're building a life on top of a lie. All right. You can't love yourself while lying to yourself, you guys. All right. And today we're going to talk about the weight of denial and why facing your truth is the most loving thing that you can do. Now, I want to give this caveat. I know that a lot of us want something different, right? We want something different in our life. Okay. We want, uh, we feel like we're behind. We feel like, we should have done this, or we live in this perpetual place of, if only I would have. Okay. But truly, you will see in the biblical wisdom today, the truth will set you free. So, why am I having this session today? You know, I'm bringing this lesson to you because I watched too many people, clients, friends, myself, family members, beautiful, brilliant, capable individuals really crumble under this weight of truth telling, right? That they just refuse to name. It's as if I tell the truth, like, my life will just break down. All right. I sat across from women. I've sat across from men who stayed in relationships with their jobs, with their mates, that were killing them spiritually because leaving, it felt selfish to them, right? I walked alongside, especially men who ignored, right? Ignored the chest pains and the panic attacks because attempting to be vulnerable, right, felt like a witness. I have held spaces for people um, that knew something was off, but convinced themselves that it wasn't that bad, right, or it wasn't bad enough to address it. And here's what I know: denial doesn't protect you, you guys. It is a form of poison. All right. So, this lesson is for everyone who's ever said, I'm fine, when something in your soul was screaming. Right. It's for the ones who are tired of pretending, and it's for the ones who's ready to love themselves enough to just tell the truth. All right. I ain't telling you to go screaming to the top of the mountains, post to Facebook about it. But there is some type of thing when we align in our truth that really helps us to break the mode. Okay. So good morning. Good morning. Um, good morning, big little brother. Good morning to um a couple other people that I see. Hi, how are you doing? Okay, so good morning. I want to welcome you back. It's Monday, all right, and we're starting week 6 of the truth theme, all right. So let's take our deep breath. This is our time. No pressure, just your presence on this morning. All right, and I want to welcome you back to Life Lessons with Dr. Sheila Little. Life Lessons is a part of Project Life. Project Life is where we turn theory into practice, you guys, where we make healing a habit and we bring awareness to our everyday life. All right. Want to give a disclaimer. Just please note that this lesson is truly informational and educational purposes. This does not create a client therapy relationship between you and I. If this session happens to, create some dis-ease or something like that, I would just say, hey, reach out to a coach, a therapist, a supportive friend, right? And really start to unpack unpack that, with the professional. And if you're not ready for a professional, like I said, get a coach or something like that. But this is for educational purposes only. All right. So let's do our body scan to bring some awareness and some compassion and love to the body. All right. To the body. So if you feel safe, close your eyes. All right. And I want you to bring some attention to your feet. All right. We always, my focus is on kindness, just being kind to ourselves. I think that we, can be performative and be kind to a lot of people. But on today, I want to be kind to ourselves. All right. So we're going to imagine that sun at the top of our head, just kind of pouring down into our bodies, starting at our feet, as we are pouring, like we're pouring water into a glass. Right. So this warm compassion, love, and kindness up our legs, up our spine, really helping every organ in our body, right? Just filling ourselves up. Okay. Filling our heart space, down our shoulders, right? Our arms, activating our hands on this morning, up our face, right? Activating our our eyes, our nose, okay? Softening our ears, all right? Activating our brain on this morning, all right? Drop a word in the chat. Let me know how you're feeling on this morning, all right? Let me know how you're feeling on this morning, all right? Are you feeling good? Let me take this banner off on this morning. How are you feeling? All right. I am feeling good. I'm feeling good on this morning. Grateful. Last week, like I took off, as you guys know, there was some, issues with my mom. And then last week, my brother and I had a big, a big project that we handled last week. Um, so I just kind of took a break, but today we're back. All right. And I want to say, who is this session for today? This session is for you. Okay. This session is for you. If you've been saying I'm fine, all right, I'm fine. So if you've been saying I'm fine so long that you almost believe it yourself, all right. If you've been minimizing your pain because you don't want to be dramatic or difficult, all right. If you convinced yourself that pretending something isn't happening will make it go away, you guys, all right. If you've been keeping secrets, from yourself about your health, your relationship, your happiness, and your dreams, if you've ever said, it's not bad, right? When deep down you know that it's worse than you're willing to admit, you guys. All right. If you're exhausted from performance, if you've been okay, if you if you're exhausted from performing, of being okay when you're falling apart on the inside, and this is for you if you're really ready to stop lying to yourself. All right. in the name of self-preservation and start telling yourself the truth. All right. So again, my powerful quote, the truth will set you free, but first it will make you miserable. All right. The truth will set you free, but first it will make you miserable. All right. It will make you miserable. So let's get into our conversation on this morning. All right. We're talking about the weight of denial. All right. And why we can't love ourselves while we are lying to ourselves. Okay, so today we're diving into the L, which is the love of self, and we're starting to have this real conversation, really telling ourselves the truth on this morning. So let me tell you about one of my clients. I'm gonna call her Maya. All right, one of my clients, Maya. Maya came to me because she was stressed. You guys, she was stressed. That's what she said. Just stress, normal stress, everyday stress. Everything she talked about was attached to stress. But when I asked her to describe her life, here's what came up. She was working 60 hours a week, right, in a job that drained her. She hadn't taken a vacation in 3 years. She was in a relationship that felt more like she was the project manager, all right, than a partner. Her body was giving her signals, you guys, like migraine. She had digestive issues. She had insomnia. She couldn't sleep at night, but she kept dismissing it just as stress. All right. And every time I would ask her, how does this make you feel? She would pivot, right? In some way, we would have this other conversation. And she would be like, well, it's not that bad. Other people have it worse. I should be grateful. At least I have a job, right? She would, in a sense, bypass all of these signs, right? Maya wasn't only stressed, she was surviving, all right, and really calling it living. And the truth that she was avoiding was that she was deeply unhappy. All right. Her life wasn't aligned and she was staying there because she felt like it was the noble thing to do, because she felt like it was the loyal thing to do. And I talk about this thing of loyalty that we have, right? We're so loyal to things that we will self-abandon. All right. And that's exactly what she was doing, abandoning herself. So the moment she named it, the moment we started to unpack it and really creating this safe space where she could bear her truth, she was able to say out loud, I'm not okay. And this just isn't working. All right. And once she could admit that, everything shifted, not because her circumstances changed overnight, but because she stopped pretending, you guys, Have you ever felt that way? All right. Have you ever felt like, something got to change, right? And a lot of times when we're feeling like something has to change, we're looking for that change to happen externally. All right. We're looking for it to happen externally. Good morning, Mama Sharon. How are you doing this morning? All right. We're looking for this change to happen in the people that we're around and our supervisors and our mates, only if they did this, only if they, acted this way, who do I need to be to really shift how they are? And the truth of the matter is, you guys, that, we have to learn how to be the change that we want to see in the world. And a lot of times being that change is going to require us to be honest, right? Be honest about some things that we have not yet had the courage to do. And I will say this, a lot of the things I say is easier said than done. All right. There is a work. There is a work. I was getting my hair retied on yesterday, and I was talking to my I was talking to, Jeanette, who ties my hair, and I was just telling her how, just say you're baking a cake, all right? And so you have the flour and the egg, right? And you're trying to mix it. In the beginning, it's like lumpy. You know what I mean? It's like lumpy. It's all lumpy, but you have to keep stirring. You have to keep whipping and blending it together to make it smooth. And I think that we don't do that in our life, right? We will add things into our life, or we will think that this is not working because we're not working it, right? We're not in it long enough. We're not honest enough. We're not feeling the emotion, right? The uncomfortableness that comes with the smoothing out of life, all right? With the smoothing out of life. And what happens is when that happens, is it absolutely, it absolutely affects us. It affects us. All right. So drop a heart in the chat if that makes sense for you. All right, drop a heart in the chat if that makes sense. All right, so here's our mirror moment on today. All right, I want you to pause. All right, what's one thought, emotion, or belief that surfaces for you around being honest, bearing your truth? All right. Before we go deeper, I really want you to sit with this question. What truth about your life, about your health, about your heart that you have been avoiding because it feels too heavy to face? All right. Don't rush it. I want you to breathe into that and just let it come up. All right. Let whatever that is just come up and flow out. Okay. Because we don't have to rush that. We don't have to judge it. We just want to be aware, right? That's the first step. All right. So here's 5 thoughts or 5 facts that I want you to know in terms of this mirror moment for you. All right. Listen, denial is a nervous system survival strategy. It's not a character flaw. And this is why we don't have to judge it. Your brain is actually wired to avoid pain. All right. You remember I talked about that motivational triad? The brain wants to avoid pain, it seeks pleasure, and avoid pain seeks pleasure, and basically it wants the fastest route. It want to goes to the fastest route. So this is not a character flaw. So you don't have to judge yourself by not wanting to be honest. It is your nervous system protecting you. All right. So again, your brain is wired to avoid pain. So when the truth feels threatening, all right, um when it feels like it's going to create some pain, when it means that you have to change, when it means that you have to leave, when it means that you have to confront or grieve, your nervous system will be like, no, we gonna halt, okay? Denial kicks in as a protective mechanism. And if we knew our body was really the way it works, is truly trying to protect us, I think we can have more compassion and override our system. All right. It's not a weakness, you guys. It is our biology. All right. So for example, a lot of people stay in a job that's crushing their spirits because their nervous system has associated quitting with some type of financial danger, some type of, I'll never find this another job, right? It will just create these big stories. So instead of facing the truth that this job is truly killing me, in a sense, it is draining me, right? It is so out of alignment. We tell ourselves this is just a season, all right? Listen, that is not resilience. That's your brain trying to keep you safe, even when it's keeping you stuck. And this is where we start to feel stuck, right? Because our brain is telling us something to keep us in a situation that we know is not good for us, but it's a defense mechanism. It's an automatic biology. Your brain is trying to stay there, which is why as human beings, we have this beautiful gift, right, of overriding this nervous system, doing the work that's required to let our body know that it's safe. It's safe for me to make a change. It's safe for me to be honest, right? And then feel our way through that, feel the uncomfortable feelings that comes with that. And that uncomfortable feeling is really proving to this body that I'm safe, right? And I can go through this. I can go through this pain. I can go through all of this stuff. And at the end of the day, I'm going to be all right. All right. Fact number 2, denial doesn't erase the truth, you guys. It delays the reckoning. Okay. It delays the reckoning. So when you refuse to face, what you refuse to face, I'm sorry, doesn't disappear. It actually compounds, right? It compounds over and over the years. All right. And it shows up in our body as pain, as illness, and as fatigue. All right. It shows up in our body as pain, illness, and fatigue. And we need to understand that, because I think when we can understand that, then we can really start to be more compassionate with ourselves. Okay. So it shows up as chronic pain. It shows up as it shows up in our relationships as resentment, as distance, as passive aggressiveness. All right. It shows up in our mental health as anxiety, some type of dis-ease, numbness, some type of depression. Listen, um, you know, an example of this is like women, right? Women who ignore their signs of a relationship. All right. over over the years, right? No intimacy, constant conflict, emotional distance, right? But she tells herself, we're just going through a phase, all right? And that phase happens for 5 years, 10 years, right? She ends up on antidepressants. Her body, is breaking down. And she finally has to admit to herself, right, that finally has to admit what she knew all along, that the truth that has been waiting, you guys, waiting uh, to be spoken, right? And I talk about this, it's an opportunity cost, right? It's an opportunity cost because when you actually um, bear this truth, then change has to happen. All right, then change has to happen. Uh, Truth number three. All right, the phase is not that bad. That phrase is not that bad. Is one of the most dangerous things that we can tell ourselves. All right. When we minimize our pain, when we minimize our pain, we're not being humble, you guys. We are betraying ourselves. All right. We're teaching ourselves that our feelings don't matter. And the truth is that your truth um, isn't like this catastrophic thing that's going to happen. Your truth is valid. All right. Your truth is valid. Okay. Number four, denial requires more energy than honesty. I know that we think that we're doing a quick fix, right? When we're just omitting the truth, right? I don't like conflict. I'm not going to say anything. It'll get better over time and things like that. I know that we think that that's the quick fix. But denial requires more energy than honesty. Think about how exhausting it is to pretend, all right, to manage the story, to keep up the performance, to avoid the conversations, to suppress the feelings, right? To denial is actually a form of labor and it's stealing your energy, all right? It's stealing the energy that you could be using to actually move towards what you actually want, all right? All right. So an example of this is a man who knows that he's burnt out, but he's still showing up. He's keep pushing. He keeps performing. He's irritated with his kids, distance from his partner, numb from joy, right? But he tells himself, I just need to push through. I just need to get through this next thing. But the truth is he's running on fumes and eventually, right? Eventually that tank, it will empty. All right. Facing it now will be hard. It will be hard, right? But collapsing later is harder. It's harder. All right. And then last but not least, the moment you name your truth, you reclaim your power. So there's a reason they say the truth will set you free. Because when you stop running from reality, you stop giving the power away. You stop giving your power away. You really stop allowing fear to control you. All right. You start making conscious choices instead of relative ones. All right. If that makes sense, put a heart in the chat. Listen, denial is not protection, you guys. It is imprisonment. So when you refuse to face your truth, you're avoiding pain. All right. You're just slowing down what's inevitable. All right. And I just think that I know it's scary, right? Like it is scary in your mind. It is scary in your mind. But the truth of the matter is that we all have the ability at this grown age of an adult to bear our truth. All right. A lot of us are choosing the dull ache of life that doesn't fit, you know, this the dullness of life that doesn't fit our dreams, that doesn't fit our goals and aspirations. All right. Here's what I mean. Here's what this looks like in our everyday life. Every time you say I'm fine, when you're not, you're choosing comfort over clarity. And every time you convince yourself that it's not that bad, you're choosing familiarity over freedom. All right. And every time the choice or that choice compounds into your every time you do that, those choices compound in your life. And eventually you get up and you don't even recognize yourself. All right. You don't even recognize how you even got here. Okay. Why does this affect your emotional, spiritual, and relational well being? Because self denial is self abandonment. All right. When you lie to yourself, you teach yourself that your truth doesn't matter. You're actually training the nervous system to suppress instead of express. All right. You build relationships on false pretenses because guess what? People are relating to the version of you that you are performing as, and something in you know that. All right. So they're actually in relationship with the version of you, not the real you. And spiritually, you cut yourself off from divine alignment, all right? Because God, that God within you, can only guide you towards what? Your truth, not the story that you're telling yourself and the story that you're allowing others to believe about you, all right? Here's a deeper truth that I want you to know, that you are not just avoiding discomfort, you are avoiding yourself. All right. And when you avoid yourself, you lose access to your intuition, you lose access to your power and your purpose. You become a stranger in your own life, you guys. All right. And no amount of external success, no amount of money, no relationship can fill the void of that internal disconnect. We start to kind of feel apathetic. All right. In a sense, I have everything I want on the outside, but I don't feel aligned or full or purposeful, right? Or happy. All right. And so we just start to live a very mundane life. Now, routine is not mundane. I think routines are very good, right? Because they help us to reduce what we call decision fatigue, right? So there's a part of our life that's very much routine. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a very much disconnected, a level of apathy, a level of not caring, right? Just withdrawing from your life. And on the outside, people may think that you're doing amazing, right? But on the inside, you actually don't feel any energy. All right. I had a client, all right, who spent 10 years in a relationship she knew wasn't right. She ignored the red flags, told herself, he'll change. It's not that bad. We've been together for so long. I've invested so much time in this relationship. Until one day, her body said, enough. All right, enough. She ended up, you guys, in the hospital with the stress induced heart palpitations. That's when she finally had to admit the truth. She was sacrificing her life to avoid a difficult conversation. All right. When she finally left, she told her, when she finally left, she told me, I felt like I could breathe for the first time in decades. All right. That's what the truth does. When we have the courage to step into it, it kind of liberates you. All right. It gives you your life back. Listen, research in psychology shows that cognitive dissonance, which is the mental stress that we hold between two conflicting beliefs, meaning I believe this and I also believe this, right? And they're conflicting with each other on the inside. It actually activates the same region of the brain as physical pain. All right. So when you're living in cognitive dissonance, it's as if, right, you're experiencing physical pain every day of your life. Like your body is literally in pain and keeping you in survival mode. So when you know the truth and refuse to act on it, guess what? Your brain is literally in conflict, right? So again, this is not about other people. This is about the love of you, the love of self. All right. And it's no cost that you should pay to lie to yourself for somebody else's peace, for somebody else's harmony, for somebody else's opinion. All right. Over time, that inner conflict, it manifests into a dis-ease. And those diseases start to look like anxiety, depression, physical illness, and relational dysfunction. And a lot of us don't even realize that we are carrying these burdens, right? These big emotions that we have detached from. And the real solution is alignment. And to get true alignment in our life, we have to learn how to be honest. All right, we have to learn how to be honest with ourselves. And that's a big part of the lemons condition, right? When I talk about the lemons condition, it is a misalignment. We lack the energy, the motivation, the organizational skills, the necessary supports, and the skill sets because we're misaligned. And a big part of our misalignment is because we're not being honest. We're not being honest about our emotions. We'll rather perform, we'll post stuff on social media. We'll, say things that's not true. And then it's like we're trying to make that happen and it's just not happening. All right. All right. Listen, your body keeps the score. All right. In denial, it racks up interest. All right. So the more you lie, it starts to compound. All right. It starts to compound. All right. So if that makes sense, put a heart in the chat for me. Right. If that makes sense, put a heart in the chat for me. Good morning, Dale. Good morning. All right. So today, life lesson is about the L in life. All right. Our love of self. And here's the truth: you cannot love what you refuse to see. All right. Self love isn't just these bubbly affirmations. It's just not about the self care day. It's not about that, you guys. It truly is about radical honesty. It's saying, this is where I am, this is what I feel, and this is what I need, even when it's uncomfortable. All right. Denial is the opposite of self love because you lying to yourself. All right. You're telling yourself that your truth really doesn't matter, that your feelings aren't valid, and that your needs are not important. All right. And that in itself is self-betrayal. Again, I'm getting my hair done yesterday, and and I'm telling, you have your hairdresser, so you talk to your hairdresser, and I'm telling my hairdresser all of these things about my life, and and how I've come to be me, and that's our conversation pretty much every week. I mean, every time I go. And so she asked this question. She was like, "How do you deal with all of that?" Right? Like, in a sense, how do you deal with that? The betrayal, the business, all that stuff, right? And I'm like, I accept it, right? Some of it is out of my control, and the things I can't control. And then I paused and I said, and it's not easy, right? Because through all of that, through the judgment, through the ups and downs, through, the managing relationships, all of that, there's an emotion, right? And so some days are good days, some days are, not so good days. But in the good days and the bad days, I still find a space to love me, to have compassion for me, right? To honor what I'm feeling, to be honest with myself, right? About what my needs are and what I want. And here's the thing about honesty, what I found at this stage, and I do know that if I was supposed to be at 100% in this stage of honesty, I'm probably at 85, 90, right? In a sense of alignment. Because the more honest you are about what you want in your life, what you want for your life, in the beginning, you start to get rejection from other people, right? Like, in a sense, you've lied to yourself so much. So when you start to be honest with yourself, now that resistance comes from other people. Does that make sense? So I've resisted it for so long, but now I'm going to sit in it. I'm going to sit in my truth. And then resistance now starts to come from the outside. And so hearing the resistance of, the type of relationship I want, the way I want my business to be structured, how I stand up for myself or advocate for myself, there's this resistance from the outside that I have to learn to let them think what they want to think, let them feel how they want to feel, let that happen. I'm going to feel that, right? But what I'm going to feel more is the love I have for me. All right. So it's not that their comments or that rejection doesn't hurt. It's not that it doesn't make me sad sometimes. However, that sadness that I feel, that dis-ease that I feel, is never greater than the love I have for me. All right. And so by the end of that day, I've come and reconciled those emotions. Right. And when I lay down at night, I'm like, I love you, Sheila. And I'm proud of you because that was tough, right? And some days are very tough, right? And some days are easy, but that's the flow of life, all right? That's the flow of life. So here's 5 essential things about the relationship between denial and your love of self, all right? Number 1, essential. This is an essential thing. Self-love requires self-awareness, and self-awareness, you guys, it requires truth, all right? I always talk about the art of life, and art is ART. All right. So we have awareness, right? So we become aware. and then we release, right? We release our judgment around what we become aware of, and then we take action, all right? Because we are reprogramming ourselves, that's the art. I become aware, I get honest. When that honesty happens, there's a judgment biologically, right? I talked about your nervous system is like, oh, that ain't cool, that's safe, right? So this judgment, we're going to release that judgment, and then we're going to take the action that aligns, right, in the direction that we want to go. Listen, you can't love a version of yourself that doesn't exist. You cannot love the version of yourself that doesn't exist. You're in denial about who you are, what you feel, what you need, and you're not when you're in denial of that, you're not practicing self-love, you guys. You're practicing self-performance. All right. An example of this is a woman who consistently says, I'm strong, I don't need help. All right. But underneath, she's draining. She's not being strong. She's being scared. All right. Real love would admit that I'm struggling and I need the support. Real self love will reach out and say, hey, I need your help with this. Hey, I need somebody to talk to, right? Because we're not individuals, we are interconnected. All right. And so we need one another. And so if you're like, well, I don't like to ask for help because I don't need nobody to um, judge me, or I don't want nobody talking about me, you're abandoning your own needs. Right. And that's not a form of self love. Self love is actually reaching out, asking for support, getting a therapist, getting a coach, having good friends, right? Having a peer group. And I find that I love men who have peer groups, and I love men who have peer groups that actually support their emotional man, right? Not the performative, what a man is supposed to be, or what a man is supposed to do, or this pompousness that comes with that, but men who have true brotherhood that holds them accountable, that allows them to express themselves emotionally, because I feel like they need that. In the same sense, I love women who actually have healthy relationships, right? Where they're just not being yes men, they're challenging their friendships, they're, saying the things that need to be said, and it's causing some dis-ease, but the relationship and the love is there to mend that, right? To mend that. All right. So again, an example is a woman who's constantly saying that she's strong and don't need help. But really, she's not. Listen, real self-love will admit that the struggle, it will admit the support that you need. That's not weakness, you guys. That's honesty. And honesty is where real healing begins. All right. Number two, this central thing I need you to know is denial keeps you in a state of inner conflict. And inner conflict, it actually blocks self-compassion. So when your inner conflict, or when your inner truth and your story don't align, all right, you are at war with yourself. All right. And self-compassion can exist in a war zone. So that whole phase, this enemy, I think it's the inner me, right? I'm in conflict with me. All right. I'm saying one thing, but I'm doing another thing. And again, is there a space for that growth? Absolutely. But that conflict is a process. And if we don't do anything with it, if we don't make a decision, right, and choose uh, a behavior that's going to be in alignment with the direction we want to go, then we're just feeding that conflict, and that conflict grows and grows and grows. But every day you live, there's going to be some conflict, okay? And that conflict is there for you as the pilot of your ship, the captain of your ship, the driver, right, to make a decision. All right, what am I going to choose? What am I going to feed today? All right. And it's not about the destination of that, right? Once I get here, then no, this is a daily process and it's a daily work. All right. So again, denial keeps you in a state of internal conflict, and internal conflict blocks your compassion. An example of this is an unhappy, a man who knows or anybody who knows they're unhappy in their career, but they keep showing up, they keep grinding, they keep performing. And in the inside, guess what? That individual starts to feel resentment. They start to get bitter. They start to get exhausted. Why? Because they haven't admitted the truth. All right. They judge themselves, for feeling this way. I should be grateful for this job. I went to school for so long, right? But I'm being ungrateful. And then that denial actually creates the judgment. And that judgment, guess what? It creates shame. And we see this. We see this when we go to to service different companies, right? We see people who's like, if you don't like this job, right? If you don't like this job, then guess what? I'm sorry. If you don't like this job, then quit, leave, right? Because it's showing in how you're showing up. And then on the reverse side of that, we see people who actually like their job, right? And they're doing it to their fullness. All right. So again, there could be this disconnect or this, cognitive dissonance where I should be grateful that I have a job. So many people don't have a job. I should be grateful. But if you're unhappy, you know, slowly start to migrate out of that. All right. Essential truth number 3. When you deny your truth, you teach others to dismiss you too. This is huge. All right. And I think that we don't even see it. It's like you're lying to yourself. All right. You're denying your own needs, but then you get offended when other people deny your needs. All right. But they're only mirroring what you do to you. All right. And I think that it's just so interesting, when I'm talking to people and it's like you expect from others what you're not even giving yourself. Listen, if you don't honor your reality, why would anyone else do that? All right. The way you treat yourself sets the standard for how other people treat you. All right. An example of this is a woman in a friendship where she's always the one who's giving. She's giving her time, she's giving her energy, she's giving her emotional labor. All right. She never says anything because she doesn't want to be difficult. She doesn't want to seem chatty or be judged as wanting too much. But inside, guess what? She's building resentfulness. I've worked with so many people who are the strong ones, who help their family, who give, but they're bitter on the inside, right? They are, every time somebody calls them, they're like, yep, I'll do it for you. Yes, yes. And then they hang up the phone. All right. Eventually, those relationships, you guys, they implode. All right. And then in this case, the individual wonders, why don't they value me? Why don't they ever ask me if I need anything? Why don't they ever call me just to be calling me? But the real question is, why don't you value yourself enough to speak to that thing, to say that's a thing that you need? All right. And here's the thing, that's the work, because you got to feel the vulnerability, you got to feel the uncomfortableness, you got to feel the anxiety that comes with making that request, right? Because you're learning a new behavior, you're learning how to choose you, you're learning how to love you, and that just don't pop on like that. It's a practice, and it's a daily practice that we feed every day. And when you stop feeding it, it starts to diminish, right? So again, this is not about the end of the road thing. Like once I start loving myself, then no, loving yourself is a daily act. And it's a place that you feed every day of your life. And when you learn how to feed that space every day of your life, what starts to happen is that starts to grow. All right. And then people will start to see you. All right. So again, loving yourself is speaking up for the things that you need. All right. Number 4, denial keeps you stuck in survival mode. And survival mode is when you're in survival mode, you're incapable, you guys, of thriving. All right. So when you're consistently trying to manage a false reality, your nervous system stays in hypervigilance. All right. What is hypervigilance? It's you looking for the red flag. You looking for the problem. You're looking for, right, the threat. All right. And so many people are hypervigilant. We meet people and we're looking for them to lie. We're looking for them. We're looking for the red flag. All right. It's a trauma response. All right. That's not living. All right. That's bracing. And you can't build a life that you love while trying to survive the one that you have. All right. And so I work with so many people who have hypervigilance. It's like, well, I'm just waiting for this. I'm just waiting for them to show their true colors. I'm just waiting for this. And speaks more about that individual than it even speaks about the people around them. All right. Um, an example of this is a burnt out parent. All right. Completely depleted and refuses to admit it. They keep pushing, they keep performing, they keep pretending, right? Meanwhile, guess what? They're snapping on their kids, they're collapsing at night, they lose joy in everything. All right. They're not present, they're not peaceful, they're not present, they're not peaceful. Guess what? They're surviving. All right. And survival is not a form of self-love. Rest is, truth is. All right. And rest and truth is a learned behavior if you grew up in an environment where that was not something that was taught to you. All right. All right. And last but not least, the moment you stop lying to yourself, you unlock the capacity to heal. All right. You unlock your capacity to heal. Healing doesn't begin, guess what? Healing doesn't begin with solutions, you guys. It begins with acknowledgement. All right. With naming what's real, with saying, this is who I am, and not, and I'm not okay with staying here. You know, I was watching the Eddie Murphy special last night. Nick and I was watching it on Netflix, and he said something. He said, I'm not trying to do, I just am. And I thought that was so powerful, right? You know, because I am on this be, do, have, right? Who do I need to be? But a part of self love is I am, right? This is who I am, and being truthful in that and allowing that amness, that I amness, in whatever state that is, being truthful so that it can open up direction for you, so that it can open up the opportunity, so you can see what is your next step, right? In the being, so that you can do the thing, so that you can have the thing. Listen, an example of this is a woman finally admitting, I'm lonely in my marriage. Not to her spouse, not to her friends, but to herself. All right. And in that moment, everything will shift. All right. Not because the marriage suddenly improves, but because she no longer is pretending. All right. She no longer is gaslighting herself. And from that place of truth, guess what? She can make real decisions. She can stay and work on the relationship, or she can leave and honor herself. But either way, she's free. And so many people are trying to change, again, whoever you're in a relationship with, if it's your friend, if it's your husband, if it's your boyfriend, if it's your job, we're so trying to not admit our loneliness, our pain, our dis-ease, right? And we are trying to control the other person's feeling. And it's like, before I can admit this, let me see if I can change them. All right. Because if I can change them, then I will no longer feel this way. And that's just not true. You got to acknowledge how you feel. All right. And then from there, allow the blossoming or the revelation to come up, right? Do I need to go to therapy? Do I need to, is this a relationship I want? How much am I willing to work on this relationship? If it's a relationship with your job or whoever. But the first thing in self-love is admitting to you, all right, that I feel alone, that I'm unhappy, or whatever that is. And then now, what are you going to do about that? Not what you need them to fix. All right. We're going to talk more about that tomorrow. All right. If that makes sense, put a heart in the chat for me. All right. Put a heart in the chat for me. Here's our biblical wisdom for today. All right. Our biblical wisdom. John 8:32. Then you will know the truth. And guess what? The truth will set you free. All right. This isn't about a religious doctrine or anything like this. This is about internal liberation, you guys. All right. The truth, the real truth about who you are, what you feel, and what you need is what breaks the chain of denial. Okay. It's what dissolves the prison of pretending. All right. So when you know your truth, when you can name it, when you can own it, when you can honor it, all right, in the most gentle and compassionate way, you actually stop being controlled by the fear. All right. You stop performing for approval, and you stop shrinking to keep other people comfortable. All right. And so it's just so powerful that you're true. But you know what we'll tell ourselves? You can't handle the truth. They can't handle the truth. And I always say, when somebody say that, no, you can't handle their response to your truth. So that's why you keep lying. It's not that they can't handle the truth. You can't handle how they're going to respond to your truth. All right. So you would rather abandon you, self-abandon, lie to yourself in front of them, to get them to try to control their behavior as a what? Self-coping mechanism. Because that's all that is. All right. So it's not that they can't handle the truth. Mm-mm. It's you can't handle their response to the truth. Because here's the thing, your truth will sometimes make people leave. It will possibly offend people, it will possibly make people um, uncomfortable, right? Defensive, and all of that stuff, right? You don't like conflict. So to keep the quote unquote peace, then you keep abandoning yourself, but you want them to honor you. You want them to love you. You want them to accept you, but you're doing something very different with you. All right, listen, the God within you, that divine intelligence that lives in your body, your intuition, and your knowing, it's whispering, tell the truth. I'll hold you through it. Okay. Tell the truth and I'll hold you through it. This is not about external validation, you guys. It's about internal alignment. So speak the truth. Then know your truth, and the truth will set you free. Neuroscience supports this. Again, neuroscience shows that, or research shows that when we suppress our truth, we live again in cognitive dissonance. Our prefrontal cortex, which is the decision-making center of your brain, is hijacked by the amygdala, which is the fear center. We make choices from fear, not clarity. And that's what makes us make choices from fear, not clarity. All right. But when we acknowledge our truth, all right, the prefrontal cortex comes back into alignment. All right. We regain access to rational thoughts, creative problem solving, and authentic choices. All right. Listen, truth doesn't just set you free emotionally, it actually sets you free neurologically. All right. So here's my question: what would it feel like to stop defending a reality that is currently hurting you? All right. What would it feel like to actually stop defending a reality that's currently hurting you? All right. Our promise verse for today. If that makes sense, put a heart in the chat for me. Our promise verse today. Surely you desire truth of the inner parts. All right. In the inner parts. You teach me wisdom in the inmost places. All right, this is Psalms 51:6 again. Surely you desire truth in the inner parts, and you teach me wisdom in the innermost parts, in our innermost places. The divine doesn't want you performing. All right, it doesn't want you performing. It wants your truth. Wisdom, the wisdom that you're seeking, the clarity, the peace, the direction, it's not going I'm sorry about that. It's the what should I do, and or what's the right thing to do. It's what I've been taught to do. All right, and sometimes that itself, right, is the performance, because you're not doing what's in alignment for you, right? You're doing what you think is the right thing to do. All right. All right. So again, the wisdom that you're seeking, okay, the wisdom that you're seeking, the clarity, the peace, and direction, It doesn't come from pretending. It comes from being real. All right. God isn't asking you to be perfect. All right. God is asking you to be honest, because wisdom lives in your truth, and healing lives in your honesty, you guys. All right. So the innermost place, that's your inner knowing. All right. Your gut, your body, your soul. It's been screaming uh, it's been screaming for you to tell the truth. All right. And the question is, are you ready to listen? All right. Neuroscience actually supports this. The innermost place can be considered as the interception network, right? The part of your brain that processes the internal body signal, right? This is where your gut feeling, your intuition, you knowing something's off, like that alarm system lives. All right. So when you deny your truth, you actually disconnect from that part of you. All right. So you stop feeling, you stop sensing, you stop using this sixth sense, and you override your internal wisdom in favor of what external expectations. But when you honor your truth, you guys, when you actually listen to your body, your emotions, and your knowing, you actually you reconnect to that deepest part of your intelligence, which is somatic wisdom, right? That sixth sense. This isn't magical or mythical, it's neurological, okay? Your body knows, and the truth is what lets you hear, right? Feel and sense things. And that's that sixth sense, that gift. And we can be disconnected from that if we're not doing what we if we're not telling the truth. So my question to you is, what is your body trying to tell you that you've been afraid to hear? All right. What is your body trying to tell you that you've been afraid to hear? So let's put this in practice on today. All right. I want you to name your truth. So get out a journal and say, the truth I've been avoiding is what? All right. Don't edit it. Don't soften it. Don't make it smaller than what it is. Just name it. We don't have to judge it. All right. And again, not judging it. It's not that a judgment is not going to come up. We're just not going to act on that judgment. Okay. So we're going to continue to write our truth, hear the judgment come up, and then we're still going to, write our truth. All right. The second thing I want you to do is identify the cost of that. All right. So I want you to ask yourself, what is this denial costing me emotionally, physically, relationally, and spiritually? All right. I want you to write that down, make it visual, because the cost of denial is always higher than the cost of truth. All right. And then number 3, I want you to choose one honest action. Listen, you don't have to blow up your life today, all right? But you do have to take one step towards truth. So maybe it's having a conversation that you've been avoiding. Maybe it's setting boundaries that you've been too scared to set. Maybe it's admitting to yourself, or maybe it's to someone else, or maybe it's admitting to yourself, or maybe someone else, say that you are not okay. All right. Maybe it's saying no to something that has been draining you. Maybe it's scheduling that doctor's appointment that you put off. Maybe it's writing that to-do list that you want to, do, right? Maybe it's applying or researching or going on Indeed and looking for new job opportunities. Whatever that truth is, it's doing that. Maybe it's writing an email, making that call, or just speaking up. One honest action, right? That's all it takes. And we do that little by little, step by step, right? And really training our nervous system that it's safe, that it's okay, while we're feeling the uncomfortableness. All right. I think about a kid who is scared, and you become in a sense, um, you are helping that child in their fear regulate, right? So you're saying, yep, I understand you're scared. What the image that came up for me is when I used to take my sons to get shots, right? And while they're getting a shot, they're scared. And I'm telling them, while they're feeling the pain of the shot, you okay? It's okay. It's okay. But they still got to feel this pain, right? So in a sense, that's how we have to do. We have to help ourselves regulate that, even in the pain, even in the uncomfortableness, I'm okay. All right. Your journal prompt, if you want this, if I stop pretending, what would I have to face? All right. And what would become possible? So If I stop pretending, what would I have to face, and what would become possible? Your affirmation for today: I am safe to tell myself the truth. My honesty is an act of love. All right, my honesty is an act of love. And then today, your intention today, I choose clarity over comfort. I honor my truth even when it's hard. And if you want a bonus challenge for today, you want a bonus challenge. Good morning, Tiana. If you want a bonus challenge, for the next 24 hours, every time you're about to say, I'm fine, or it's not that bad, pause. Just pause and ask yourself, is that true? Or am I protecting someone, including me, from discomfort? All right. You don't have to change your response. Just notice it, right? You could say I'm fine, but just notice the pretending, the performance. And the more you notice that performative part of you, the more you get uncomfortable, right? And then, because sometimes the first step is just noticing that I'm performing, all right? And then that will weigh on you, and then you will have the courage to do something different. So just notice it. Awareness is the first step, all right? Um, yeah, so that is your action item for today. And I apologize for the technical difficulties. My dog, the little beat, the fire thing. I didn't even hear it honestly until I started to do this show. I'm at home this week. I have some things going on at the office, so hopefully I'll get those things addressed for our session tomorrow. Listen, if today session really hit deep and you recognize that denial has been something that has been running your life, here's what I want you to do. Imagine what's possible for you. All right. Join the project. All right. We're wrapping up the end of the year. You may want to get some clarity and things like that as you end this year or start the new year. So be a part of the life lessons. Make sure that you know, subscribe to the YouTube channel, invite a friend, right, to or join the Facebook Elevating Life group. All right. And if you really are looking for that change, join me at SheilaLittle.com/life. Join the project. All right. It's a minimal fee for the transformation that you're experiencing. All right. And if you haven't already, make sure you get that Weight That We Carry journal. It is a 30-day journal. It's free. You do have to pay for the shipping though, or you can get it as a free digital download. All right. I thank you guys for being a part of this community. I'm here to hold a space for your truth, and hopefully together we can hold a space for one another. Listen, this is just isn't content. This whole project is a project or a container for your transformation. Okay. All right. So I got to ask you a question. If this lesson truly resonated with you and you are walking away with some insight today, you already know what to do. Drop a fire in the chat for me. Drop a fire in the chat for me. All right. And here's that call, that challenge, and that charge. Listen, you are. So your call today is, what truth are you walking away with? All right. Your challenge is, what's the next brave step? Listen, truth without action is just awareness, and awareness without movement is just guilt. So what's one thing that you're going to do today, this week, to really honor your truth? I want you to write it down. Tell me about it. DM me, post it in a message, right? Just make it real, okay? And then allow your charges to go shape your life, all right? You were not put on this earth to perform. You were put here to live, and living requires you to be truthful, all right? Truthful in your messiness, truthful in your in your uncomfortableness, right? Just liberating yourself with the truth. So stop protecting the lie and really start honoring what's real for you, all right? Because your truth may wreck your comfort, but it will restore your life and your soul. So go shape your life, all right? Go shape your life. In closing, again, go do the membership if this really helps. And my motivational takeaway for you today is that the truth doesn't need your permission to exist. It just needs your courage to speak it. All right. All right. And you got it. All right. You got that. Tomorrow we're going to talk about interactions with others. I thank you for being with me today. In essence, we're talking about the mask that we wear, all right? Because the truth is, you can't have authentic relationships if you're showing up as a version of yourself that doesn't exist. So I'll see you tomorrow for that life lesson. I want you to remember this. If you can shape it in your mind, you can have it in your life. I love you. I love you. I love you. And I'll see you tomorrow for that life lesson. Till later.